G'day guys, ZiggyD here. In case you guys are wondering what the Abyssal Depths are and what they look like and what they do, I just encountered one, so I thought I'd give you guys a little run through. Occasionally when you run into an abyss, you will follow the cracks, and at some point it will end, and instead of giving you a chest or nothing if you fail the abyss, you will sometimes have a little doorway rise up like this, the Abyssal Depths, which you can just go in ahead and go in there at any point. And it's essentially its own little map that you can explore that's just full of abyss monsters and a little bit of a boss fight at the end. Now the thing to know is pre-maps, there is this before endgame kind of simple abyss map, Abyssal Depths that we're in right now. So this is the level 62 zone, and this Abyssal Depths is much simpler. You're not going to encounter the liches in here, the kind of endgame abyss boss that you get the uniques off of, but these are a good opportunity to farm up a bunch of jewels and a bunch of the new Stygian Vise belts, so you can get some juicy jewels like this. The jewels that you can get from Abyss are pretty insane. This is just like kind of a nice low level one, but that's pretty damn good for a belt implicit. And then these are basically regular belts that can have a socket in them that you can put one of these Abyssal jewels in. So you basically replace the implicit, say like 40 life from a leather belt, with one of these jewels, which is kind of nuts. So we get that 25 life from this one in addition to a bunch of damage. And of course, if you're not familiar with these, you can also put them in your regular jewel sockets in your tree as well. So they're pretty damn good and certainly worth farming for. They drop pretty frequently from the Abyss, and especially from these Abyssal Depths. So let's go ahead and run this. It's basically like a circular map, and in it you're just going to be encountering a bunch of these guys. The rares that you'll encounter in here and in the abysses are pretty sketchy at launch. Sometimes there's like little hidden areas that will open up as well, so just keep an eye out for that on the map. Some of these rares are really nasty, especially like the flying manta ray things are really sketchy. But if we just kind of stick to one side, we can follow the loop around and kill these guys. There's a bunch of little chest things in here as well that you can open, and they have a good chance of dropping belts and jewels as well. Here's a few of those rares that we're going to encounter. Little tentacle things try to tickle you every now and then. Just want to stay off of those. Some of these guys are pretty nasty. These ones here aren't too bad. My damage is getting pretty good now, so we'll be able to kill them pretty quickly. But if you don't have very good single target, some of these rares are really nasty right now. They have healing that they do whenever they kind of like dive underground. And they can be really hard to deal with, especially if they also happen to spawn with like a regen aura or something. So they can be kind of nasty, so be a little careful with these guys if you're encountering them in hardcore. And a good kind of like tip for the abysses themselves is it's not a bad idea to just skip some of the rares. As long as you keep following the cracks and fighting at the actual kind of holes that spawn, then you will be able to complete it even without killing all of the rares. So sometimes a rare will try and distract you on one of the abyss cracks, and it's a good idea just to go ahead and skip that. So you want to hit these hordes because these will have a pretty good chance of having the jewels in them, as well as the actual belts as well. So there's a rare jewel right there, which we'll be able to check out. We'll check those out at the end. And as I said, sometimes there'll be these like bone walls that will collapse. I love these areas. It's like really spooky and grim. Kind of gives me some Grim Dawn or D2 vibes. I kind of like it. But eventually, as you kind of hook around, I usually just stick to the left. You will, after we kill this nasty shadow dude. God, how spooky are these abyss rares as well. You'll encounter an arena here. So in here, there's a timed boss fight against kind of like a totem that summons a bunch of enemies. So you can either just burst down the totem as quickly as you want, and it'll drop a fair bit of loot, or you can let it spawn some monsters and fight the monsters. But you do want to kill it before the timer expires, otherwise you won't get any loot off it. So here's the Stygian Spire here, so we can go ahead and try and burst that down, or we can wait for some of the actual monsters to spawn. So we'll get a bunch of rares and regular mobs. It can be a little overwhelming. It's a bit like doing a really nasty breach where you're gonna get a lot of guys kind of trying to overwhelm you here, so we'll kill a few of the monsters as the timer runs down. Try not to kill the spire too much just yet. We'll focus on some of these rares, because we might get a little bit of extra loot off these guys. In fact, there's a unique right there. The drops in here are pretty good, especially given this is like a little, this is kind of like a little mini endgame map within the leveling process, which is pretty cool. And as I said, these are not the final ones. In maps, you'll encounter like a higher level version of these, with an actual lich boss at the end. They're supposedly quite rare. I've noticed it's a bit glitchy in here. Sometimes you teleport around a bit. Hopefully that ends up getting fixed. I think it's because of these holes spawning. So sometimes you'll get teleported around a bit. Alright, so since we're getting to like the last 30 seconds here, we'll go ahead and kill the Stygian Spire. And we'll get some loot. There we go. Let's go kill the rest of these guys. So we got a belt there, a rare jewel, a magic jewel, and a couple uniques. Not too bad at all. And that's only like less than half the map as well, because you can exit out this way. If you just want to leave, you can just go straight out this and it'll take you to the entrance. Otherwise, we can head back out. And the actual map loops around, so we can keep clearing this way and get a few more belts and jewels and stuff like that. There's a pretty good chance of dropping them in here, especially from like these hordes and the rares, so not a bad idea to kind of clear these out quickly. It seems to be pretty decent XP as well, so you're often gonna... I remember I got like a full level coming through one of these at lower levels, so... And I think I've encountered about 4 or 5 of these while leveling, so they're not super common, but you will run into a few if you are actually clearing those abysses as you encounter them and making a point to do so. Which I've felt has been quite worthwhile. The jewels are very strong for leveling, and it's quite possible to whack one of those belts on and just fill it with like some decent 2 or 3 stat jewels while leveling, and that's going to be better than most regular rare belts you would find while leveling. So you're pretty much never going to be without a decent belt in Abyss League. So this is one I found here that's pretty nice. Good life armor, resists. Pretty damn good for like a day 1 leveling belt. And then those jewels can be absolutely nuts. So quite worth going for. Just those rares can be a little sketchy. If you're definitely going to want good single target this league. I think there's going to be a lot of boss fights at endgame. We've got the Lich fights, and we've got these nasty Abyss rares as well. So single target is definitely going to be super important this league, so don't neglect it. But as you can see, it just loops back around until you get to the start, and there's a few little spots you could poke around in them. But basically, once you've done the loop, you're pretty much good to go. So from that, let's have a look what we got. We got a Skaver, Gladius, not bad. Sedemus Touch, a couple other items. There's a rare belt there, kind of okay. There's another kind of okay belt. They're both pretty usable. If I didn't already have this really good one, those would be pretty wearable while leveling. There's a Murderous Eye, which is melee mods. So we got some claw damage, life, and unholy might. Searching is range mods like bow and wand attacks. And we've got some wand attacks, resist, and mana there. Hypnotic Eyes are spellcasters, so you'll get, like my one here is a Hypnotic Eye. So you'll get damage to spells, added flat damage to spells. And the other one, which we don't have here, is for summoners. So not too bad. We got 3 jewels and 2 rare belts and a couple uniques. Oh, that's pretty good for like a little 2-minute map, right? Anyway, guys, hope you found this interesting and helpful. I'll probably give you guys a look at the higher level one with the Lich fights once I encounter one. Anyway, guys, that's it for now. I'm ZiggyD, and thank you for watching.